He once looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I would never cheat on you, not in a million years." Her tone was steady, her gaze unwavering, and for a moment I felt like the luckiest man alive. I remember laughing softly, pulling her close, and kissing her forehead as if life was simple, safe, and unbreakable. Back then, I didn't just trust her. I believed her with my whole heart, but belief is a dangerous drug. It blinds you to reality, numbs your instincts, and makes you addicted to promises that were never meant to be kept. The night I finally saw the proof, when Alice's mask slipped and the lies she'd been living unraveled, I didn't just lose the woman I loved. I lost the version of myself that believed love was untouchable. It wasn't a vague suspicion I could laugh off, and it wasn't gossip whispered by jealous friends. No, it was undeniable, proof that sliced through every illusion I had built around her. I can still feel the weight of it in my hands, the way my stomach dropped like a stone into dark water, and how the world stopped spinning for a terrifying, quiet moment. My fiancée, the woman I was about to marry, had been living a double life, and when the truth hit me, it wasn't an explosion, it wasn't screaming in the middle of the night. It was silence, heavy, suffocating silence. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything against the walls. I didn't even confront her that night. Something inside me had shifted, something cold and patient. Because if there's one thing betrayal teaches you, it's that silence can be louder than rage. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting, fighting, or breaking down. It's a slow, deliberate dismantling of someone's lies. I had given Alice everything, my trust, my love, my future, and she gave me betrayal wrapped in devotion. When I first stared at the proof, I didn't think about leaving. Not right away. I thought about watching her squirm, about letting her keep lying, letting her dig her own grave until there was no way out. But before all of that, before the unraveling, before the betrayal, I had a life. A normal one. A happy one. Or at least that's what I thought. I had plans, a wedding marked on the calendar, a house we were decorating together, dreams of children with her smile and my stubbornness. If you had asked me back then, "Do you trust her?" I would have laughed and said, "Of course I do, more than anyone in the world." And I would have believed every word, but trust doesn't shatter all at once. It cracks slowly, quietly, like glass under pressure. You don't notice until it finally breaks apart in your hands. And what I discovered next changed everything. I used to think my life was simple, ordinary even. My days followed a pattern. Wake up, shower, grab a coffee, fight Austin traffic, spend 8 hours at work, then come home to dinner and Netflix with Alice before falling asleep beside her. That was my rhythm. Predictable, comfortable, rinse and repeat. I wasn't the kind of guy who grew up craving drama or chaos. My parents were still together after 35 years, small-town people who taught me loyalty wasn't optional. It was the foundation of love. For me, relationships weren't about games or thrills. They were about partnership. So when I met Alice, I wasn't looking for excitement. I was looking for forever, and she seemed like the person who could give me that. When I proposed to her, it felt like stepping into that secret club of adulthood, where people actually had their lives figured out. We started planning our wedding, putting down deposits, tasting cakes, even arguing over tablecloth colors. The silly arguments that couples laugh about later, the ones that make you believe you're building something real. It was normal. It was good. Or at least, I thought it was. For a while, I was convinced I was living the happiest chapter of my life. Alice had that glow about her, like most brides-to-be do. She'd spend hours flipping through magazines, scrolling Pinterest boards, and filling binders with ideas. I'd joke that she was more married to her wedding binder than to me, and she'd laugh, smack my arm, then pull me in for a kiss. But even during those moments, small cracks started showing. Cracks I should have noticed but didn't. Cracks that seemed too small to matter at the time. Like how she suddenly started guarding her phone. Before, she'd leave it lying around without a thought, screen lighting up with texts from friends. Now it was always face down, sometimes even on silent. I brushed it off. She's probably just stressed with wedding planning. Maybe her girlfriends are talking about the bachelorette party, I told myself. I didn't press. I didn't want to. Another time, Alice came home late from work. As a nurse, long shifts weren't unusual, but that night was different. Her hair was freshly curled, not tied up in the messy bun she always wore. She smelled different too. Not her usual vanilla lotion, but an expensive perfume I had never smelled before. Half joking, I asked, "You sure you were saving lives at the hospital and not moonlighting as a model?" She laughed a little too hard, kissed me quickly, and changed the subject. And me? I let it slide. Because when you're in love, you don't search for cracks. You convince yourself the glass is solid. There was one weekend I'll never forget. We had planned a trip out to Fredericksburg, just a little getaway. Wine tastings, small town charm, the whole thing. We were walking through a vineyard, and Alice kept checking her phone. Not casually, obsessively, like she was waiting for something urgent. At one point, she stepped away, saying she needed to take a call. When she came back, she smiled and said it was just work. But her face told a different story. Pale, nervous, like she was hiding something. I wanted to ask her right then, but before I could, she slipped her arm through mine, leaned her head on my shoulder, and whispered, "I love you." Just like that, I swallowed my doubt. Because that's what love does. It silences the alarm bells in your head. My gut was screaming, but I buried it under her words. My friends used to joke that I was too trusting, that I gave people the benefit of the doubt even when they didn't deserve it. Maybe they were right, because when Alice told me she was picking up extra shifts at the hospital to save money for the wedding, I believed her. When she canceled plans last minute, saying she was too exhausted from work, I didn't question it. When she suddenly started locking her phone with a passcode, I told myself it was normal. I even remember one night when Max, my dog, wouldn't stop barking at the front door. Alice was out, supposedly working. I checked the peephole and saw nothing but darkness. The street was quiet, empty, but Max wouldn't calm down. Something in my gut twisted. Later, when Alice came home, I mentioned it. For a split second, she froze, just long enough for me to notice, before laughing it off and saying Max probably barked at a raccoon, and once again I let it go. That's the cruel part of betrayal. It doesn't smash into you like a head-on collision. It seeps in slowly, drop by drop, until one day you realize you're drowning. But by then, it's too late. Back then, I was blind. I was excited about cake flavors, seating charts, and honeymoon plans. I was dreaming of a future with Alice, of kids and a house filled with laughter. I even started house hunting, imagining us building our first home together. There was one house I loved, a cozy 2-story with a big backyard for Max. Alice pretended to be excited, but I noticed her phone buzzing during the tour. She excused herself to the bathroom, and when she came back, her mind was somewhere else. Her eyes weren't even on the house anymore. I told myself she was just stressed, but stress doesn't explain late-night texts she never mentioned. Stress doesn't explain lipstick in her purse that wasn't hers. Stress doesn't explain why sometimes, when she hugged me, I could smell cologne on her clothes that wasn't mine. The first time I noticed the cologne, I laughed it off. "Babe, are you cheating on me with a guy who wears department store body spray?" I joked. She froze, just for a second, before laughing, shoving me playfully, and saying, "You're crazy." Once again, I ignored the voice in my head. Because here's the truth. When you're in love, you don't look for evidence. You look for excuses, and I was full of them. But excuses only hold for so long. Soon enough, the lies stop hiding in the shadows and start standing in front of you. What I discovered next was the beginning of the end. The first real crack came one Thursday night. Alice had texted earlier in the day saying she was picking up an extra shift at the hospital. That wasn't unusual anymore, though it had become more frequent than it used to be. I didn't think much of it until around 9 p.m., when my phone rang. It was one of her co-workers, a guy named Aiden. Aiden and I weren't close, but he knew me well enough to call when something didn't add up. He asked if Alice was around because he needed her to sign something for HR. I told him she was at work, but Aiden paused, then said, "No, she's not scheduled tonight. I just came off my shift. She hasn't been here all day." My heart clenched. I laughed it off on the phone, pretending maybe there was some mistake. But when I hung up, my chest felt like it was caving in. Alice wasn't at work. That was the moment my gut finally broke through all the excuses I'd been feeding it. I didn't blow up her phone. I didn't accuse her. I just sat there in silence, waiting. When she finally walked in around midnight, her hair was curled, her makeup flawless. She looked more like someone coming back from a date than a nurse finishing a grueling shift. I forced a smile and asked, "How was your shift?" She leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Exhausting." I nodded, pretending I didn't know. Because now I realized something. I didn't just need suspicion. I needed proof. That night I lay awake, listening to her breathe beside me. My mind was a storm. Part of me wanted to shake her awake and demand answers. Part of me desperately wanted to be wrong. But a darker part of me, the part that had begun to harden, already knew the truth. And that part told me, wait, watch, be patient. So I started watching, quietly, patiently. Alice had a habit of leaving her purse on the counter when she came home. One night, while she was in the shower, I peeked inside. What I found made my stomach churn. There was a lipstick, wrong shade, wrong brand, not the one she ever wore. There were receipts from restaurants I didn't recognize. 2 glasses, 2 entrees. That wasn't just grabbing food after work. My hands trembled as I stuffed everything back exactly the way I found it. The calls came next. Alice would step outside onto the porch to talk in hushed tones. I couldn't catch much, just soft laughter, the occasional pause. One night, curiosity burned too strong. I crept closer, standing just behind the door. I caught a single sentence that froze my blood. "I can't talk long. He's inside." The he was me. I nearly burst through the door that night, ready to tear the truth out of her. But I stopped myself. Because rage gets sloppy. Patience, though. Patience gets answers. And I wanted answers. I began keeping notes, times, dates, her excuses, and the little things I noticed. It felt insane, like I was living in a crime thriller, documenting evidence against my own fiancée. But every note, every entry was another piece of the puzzle falling into place. And deep down, I knew the puzzle was going to reveal something ugly. Her lies grew bolder. She told me she was too tired to hang out, yet I saw charges from bars across town appear in our bank account. She claimed she was working doubles, but her paychecks never reflected the extra hours. And once she came home with a faint mark on her neck, badly hidden under makeup, a hickey. She thought I wouldn't notice. I did. That was when I crossed a line I thought I'd never cross. I started following her. Not every night, just when my gut screamed loudest. One evening, she told me she was covering a shift for a friend. 10 minutes later, I grabbed my keys, drove out, and parked across from the hospital lot. I waited. An hour passed. She never showed. I trailed her car through town, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs. She finally pulled into a quiet restaurant, the kind of place with dim lighting and wine glasses on every table, and then I saw him. Tall, dark hair, wearing a suit. He walked toward Alice's car with the ease of someone who had done it before. She stepped out and he kissed her cheek like it was the most natural thing in the world. My fiancée smiled at him, the same smile she once saved for me. I sat there in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Max wasn't there to distract me this time. No friends, no one. Just me, my breaking heart, and the undeniable truth playing out in front of my eyes. I stayed for an hour, watching them through the restaurant window, watching them laugh, watching their hands brush across the table, watching Alice lean in close, smiling in ways she hadn't smiled at me in weeks. And then I couldn't take it anymore. I drove home in silence. Every red light felt like an interrogation. Every street light felt like it was exposing me as a fool. The next morning, Alice slipped back into bed beside me. She curled up against my chest, breathing softly like nothing had happened. And I let her. I let her pretend. But inside, I had no doubts anymore. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because there was one question clawing at me. Who was he? And how deep did these lies run? So I did something I never thought I would. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Bella. I still remember the way she listened to me without judgment, nodding quietly as I spilled my story. She didn't mock me, didn't call me paranoid. She just said, "Give me a week." That week was pure hell. I woke up every morning pretending everything was normal. I kissed Alice, made her coffee, laughed at her stories. I played the role of the blind, devoted fiancé. But at night I stared at the ceiling, wondering if she was texting him right there beside me. Every buzz of her phone made my skin crawl. 7 days later, Bella called. Her voice was calm, professional, but I could hear the weight in it. "Do you want the short version or the full report?" she asked. My throat was dry as I whispered, "Both." The short version. Alice was cheating. No doubt about it. The full report? That was a dagger straight through the heart. Bella handed me a folder thick with evidence, photos, dates, times, hotel receipts, pictures of Alice being picked up outside work by the same man, photos of her kissing him in her car, every detail catalogued, every lie exposed. 2 months. That's how long it had been going on. The man's name was Anthony, a pharmaceutical rep. He'd met Alice when he came to her hospital for business, and ever since she had been building a double life with him while building a wedding with me. I sat in my car with the folder in my lap, staring at the photos until my eyes burned. Alice smiling at Anthony like he was her entire world. Alice kissing him like I didn't even exist. The weight of betrayal pressed down on my chest until I could barely breathe. I thought I'd cry, but no tears came. I thought I'd scream, but no words formed. Instead, there was only silence, a heavy, icy calm that settled over me like armor. Because now I had proof, not just suspicion, not just instinct, proof she couldn't twist, proof she couldn't laugh off, proof she couldn't blame on my insecurities. And as I stared at those photos, one thought kept echoing in my mind. She promised. She promised she'd never do this. But she did. She broke everything. What I did next wasn't just about heartbreak. It wasn't just about betrayal. It was about making sure she never saw it coming, because sometimes the quietest revenge is the loudest of all. I didn't confront Alice the night Bella handed me the folder. Most people would expect me to storm into the house, throw the photos in her face, demand the truth. But I knew Alice too well. She was quick, clever, always ready with an excuse. If I gave her even a second, she would twist everything around, cry crocodile tears, make me look like the paranoid fiancé who couldn't trust her. I wasn't going to let that happen. Instead, I decided to wait. I would be patient. I would let her think she was still in control, still deceiving me. And in the meantime, I would build my plan. Because if I was going to destroy this double life she'd built, I wasn't going to do it in private. I wanted her lies exposed where everyone could see. Every morning I kissed her like nothing had changed. Every night I listened to her lies about late shifts and tired evenings. I smiled when she lied. I nodded when she whispered she loved me. And inside I was keeping score. Every move she made, every excuse she offered, went into the ledger of her downfall. It was strange, playing the role of the loving fiancé when I already knew the truth. Part of me felt sick, but another part, darker, sharper, felt powerful. For once I wasn't the fool anymore. She thought she was fooling me, but really, I was the one fooling her. I made copies of Bella's entire report. Photos, receipts, timelines. I stored them safely on a flash drive, hidden in places Alice would never think to look. I wasn't going to lose my evidence to some sudden stroke of bad luck. This wasn't paranoia anymore. It was strategy. And slowly I began to pull back on the wedding plans. Quietly, subtly. I canceled the florist. I called off the band. Not enough for her to notice right away, but enough to ensure that when the storm came, there would be no wedding to salvage. I wasn't going to marry her, but I needed her to believe everything was still perfect. The perfect opportunity came in the form of our engagement party, a big one with friends, family, her co-workers, my co-workers, everyone important to us. Alice thought it was going to be a night celebrating our love. For me, it was going to be the grand stage for her mask to fall off. The weeks leading up to the party were surreal. Alice was glowing again, walking around like she had it all. She'd text late at night, smirking at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes she'd disappear into another room for calls, whispering like she was in a secret club. And every time I smiled to myself, because little did she know every move was just digging her hole deeper. There were nights, though, when I almost faltered, when she'd fall asleep on my chest, breathing softly like she used to in the early days, when she'd talk about our future kids, what their names would be, what kind of parents we'd be. A part of me wanted to believe that version of Alice still existed. That maybe she'd wake up one day, realize her mistake, and come back to me. But then I'd open Bella's folder again. I'd see the photos of her with Anthony, and the softness in me turned to steel. The night of the engagement party finally arrived. The hall was packed, filled with the hum of laughter and clinking glasses. Alice looked stunning in a dress she'd bought just for the night, her smile wide as she greeted guests, holding my hand like we were the perfect couple. Everyone kept saying, "You two are meant to be," and all I could do was smile, because they had no idea what was about to happen. As the evening went on, people started asking me to give a toast. Alice nudged me playfully, her eyes sparkling. "Go on," she whispered. "Say something sweet about us." I nodded, my heart steady, my mind razor-sharp. This was it. I stood up, glass in hand. The room went quiet. Alice turned to me, smiling with those trusting eyes, the same eyes that had lied to me over and over. I cleared my throat and began. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, to celebrate love, trust, and commitment." The crowd clapped, glasses raised. Alice beamed at me. "And since tonight is about honesty," I continued, "I thought it would be the perfect time to share something important with all of you." I saw Alice's smile flicker just for a second. Her eyes darted nervously. She didn't know what was coming, but her gut must have felt the shift in the air. I pulled out the projector remote. The big screen behind me lit up, and then the photos appeared. Alice, laughing at dinner with Anthony. Alice, kissing him in her car. Alice holding his hand outside a hotel. Each photo hit like a hammer. Gasps filled the room. A wave of whispers spread like wildfire. Alice froze. Her face went pale. Her glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. "What? What is this?" she stammered, her voice cracking. I kept my tone calm, almost steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what commitment looks like. While I was planning a future, Alice was busy building a double life. While I trusted her, she was sneaking around with Anthony. You all remember Anthony, right? He's here tonight." Heads turned, and there he was, Anthony, sitting in the back corner, pale and sweating. He looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Alice spun, her voice rising. "It's not what it looks like," she shouted. But the crowd wasn't buying it. People scoffed. Someone muttered, "Not what it looks like? She's literally kissing him in half the photos." Tears welled up in Alice's eyes as she turned to me. "Please, I can explain. It's not—" But I cut her off. "Explain what? The hotel receipts? The nights you said you were working double shifts? The calls where you whispered, 'I can't talk long, he's inside'?" "Go ahead, Alice. Explain it. Explain it to my parents, to your parents, to everyone who came here tonight to celebrate us." Her father buried his face in his hands. Her mother looked like she might faint. My parents stared at her with pure disgust. Friends exchanged whispers, shaking their heads. The room was heavy with judgment. Alice broke down, sobbing, reaching for me. "Please, I love you. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear you're the one I want, not him. Please, don't do this. Don't throw us away." I stepped back, her hands grasping at the air between us. My voice stayed steady. "No, Alice. A mistake is spilling coffee on my shirt. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. 2 months of lies, sneaking around, humiliating me while planning our wedding. That's not a mistake. That's who you are." The room was silent except for her sobs. Every guest stood frozen, watching the wreckage of our perfect love story crumble in real time. I slipped the engagement ring off my finger and placed it on the table in front of her. My final words cut through the silence like a blade. "You promised you'd never cheat, and now everyone here knows what your promise is worth." Then I turned and walked out. The fallout was brutal, for her. Her parents were furious, humiliated beyond words. Her friends distanced themselves immediately. Word spread fast through the hospital. Within weeks, she became the whispered scandal in the halls. And Anthony? He dumped her almost immediately. His company didn't appreciate the drama either. He lost his job. The life she thought she had built crumbled faster than she could patch it. Alice tried calling me, texting me, begging me to meet her. At first, she pleaded. Then she cursed me. Then she begged again. But I never responded. I blocked her everywhere. For me, it was over the moment the truth was revealed. I sold the ring. Took Max on a road trip. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. The weight on my chest was gone, and when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the fool anymore. I saw someone who had survived. People still ask me, "Don't you miss her?" And the truth is, no. I don't miss her. I miss the person I thought she was. I miss the woman who promised she'd never cheat. But that woman never existed. She was just a mask, and masks always slip eventually. As for me, I learned the hardest lesson of all. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it reshapes it. It teaches you that sometimes the person you take a bullet for is the one holding the gun. And that's the last promise Alice ever broke for me.